Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what happened there. I don't know. YouTube just dropped the stream. So for those of you listening on YouTube, I've relaunched it. It seems to be relaunched, but I don't know. No? You're not seeing it?
It wasn't. No, yeah, we're fine. It's there. It wasn't my fault. They're blaming me. I'm not even in the studio with you.
It was not done. So I do apologize. It never went offline for me, but given that we're in the north of Idaho and we've had these horrible storms with snow, it doesn't surprise me if it's getting glitchy up here in the north. But I do apologize. It's something obviously beyond my control because we didn't go down here, but I did relaunch the stream. And so hopefully it's going on for you guys now. All right. We are, what's that?
I was going to say, Bomber says you can't get rid of us that easily.
Oh, no. I don't want to get rid of you guys. I love you guys. So let's get back to the phone here. We are joined by Chris from over on the East Coast there, and he is sharing a couple of his stories. So welcome back, Chris. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, perfect. All right. So we're back in action. Other than technical difficulties, it's kind of the portal as usual. But where are you going this time now? You said you had another story.
Yeah, I have quite a few, but I'll share just one more. I know that you guys are pretty much underneath a huge pile of snow. Right now here in New Jersey, it's 64 degrees, and next week I'm supposed to be under 37 inches of snow. That is the prediction. So crazy times right now.
It is,
but
sure.
In any case, when I was younger, this was my other big experience. I was about 13 years old. This was 1982, 83. I was, my dad, my mom and I got a new apartment. My dad was, my dad was a mess. My dad was kind of a drug dealer, drug addict, lots of things. It was a bad scene with him, but we wound up moving into this new apartment across town, a bigger apartment, and, I was excited because I had my own bedroom and things like that. So long story short, I had not seen the apartment yet, but my mother told me, she goes, "Oh, we're moving, it's a nice, big, beautiful apartment, and, you're going to have your own bedroom and this and that, because we lived in a very cramped apartment when I was younger."
Okay.
And, she says, it's going to be great. So I was very excited. I was very excited to move. I was very excited to have, this new apartment. And the night, and I'll never forget this. The night that my mother told me that we were moving, I had a dream, and I still remember it. I dreamt that we were walking. I was already, at that time, I was 13 years old. I was taller than my mother. But I in my dream, I was still a little boy. I was a little boy shorter than her, holding her hand. And I had a dream that we were walking down the street and we looked at this one house in my dream, and it looked like there was a face, the way the windows and everything were set up. And I said, "Mom," in my dream, I remember this as clear as I'm talking to you. I dreamt that I said, "Mom, that house looks like it has a face."
Mm.
And in my dream, my mother said that means a demon lives there. That
Ooh.
means there's a demon in that house.
Oh.
And I didn't think much of it. It was a kind of a nightmare, but I didn't think much of it. I was still excited to move into that apartment. Keep in mind that my mother's sister was the one who found that apartment for us. And later on in life, many years later, 20 years later, we found out that she was involved in the occult. So who knows? Who knows
Oh,
how
geez.
she found that apartment? I don't know.
Right.
But long story short, my mother, my father, and I, and my dog, Poncho, moved into that apartment. This was 1983 in New Jersey. And as soon as we moved in, my father completely lost it. Like, it was very strange. It was almost as soon as we moved in, my father completely went off the deep end, with his addictions, with the drugs, with this and that. And we started to notice that there were, my mother and I noticed, because, we were the ones who were talking to each other. My dad was, even though he was present, he was sort of out of the picture because he was so, he was so addicted that he really, really wasn't quite present. There were many days that he wouldn't even come home. And we were in this apartment, and my mother and I noticed that there were places in the apartment that were very, very cold. There was no reason for them, even in the summer. Pockets of the apartment that were just ice cold, whereas the rest of the apartment was really warm, hot,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't understand it. There were strange smells that both of us noticed. There was a woman that lived upstairs from us, in the apartment upstairs from us, and I mean, it's terrible to even say, but the police came one day. We had not seen her for a while. We had not, we would always hear her walking up and down the staircase to go home.
Mm-hmm.
She lived upstairs from us, and we hadn't, heard from her or seen her in a while. Whatever,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know her. She kept to herself. And we found out, the police came to do an investigation, and she was, I think, raped, or murdered or something. She never came back.
Oh.
And she had a dog that was living up there, and it was barking, and somebody came and took the dog away. It was a very dark, dark, dark place. And we started to notice these things, and my dog, who was a great dog, he was a boxer, he was a good boy, he was the kindest, gentlest dog ever. Every time we left him alone in the apartment, he would try to eat his way out.
Oh.
He would chew on the woodwork. He would chew on, we would come home and he would be covered in blood and foam at his mouth, wagging his tail. He was still our puppy dog. He loved us, and
Right.
there was nothing different about his demeanor. But, we would have to pull the nails out of his mouth and pull the splinters out of his mouth because he was trying to eat his way out of the house. He could not bear to be there alone. And I had a dream one night where I was walking through my apartment, and I was 13 at the time. I had a dream that I went into one of the rooms in our house, and it was sort of developed like a girl's bedroom, sort of white, frilly a bedroom, sort of like you would imagine a girl,
Sure.
a little girl having an apartment, a room like that. And in the corner of the room, behind the dresser, in my dream, I remember very clearly, there was something hiding. I went over to look at it, and I kind of saw, I think, the demon that was in that house, because I believe that it was demonically influenced. And it was, I can't completely describe it. It's sort of like if you could imagine an orangutan with long frog legs that when it was sitting down, its knees were above its head. It was very ugly, very sad, very deeply, deeply, I don't want to say scary, but just extremely depressing.
Sure.
Like, I just can't explain how you can look at something and see something that has absolutely no hope. No hope.
Huh.
no hope.
Ah.
And that's exactly the feeling I had. And we only lasted there about 8 months. My dad disappeared one day. Uh, I came home from school one day, and the house was emptied. My dad cleared us out, unfortunately, and we never reconciled. He wound up passing away
Oh
about
my
15
God.
years later.
Wow.
But, and I called my mother up, and I told her, I said, we've been robbed. I didn't
Yeah.
think about my father at the time. But ultimately, my mother and I both, my mother passed away 5 years ago,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but we always said that we know, and, from my previous story, I think there's a big difference. My previous story was about some kind of a ghost that was in my apartment, and it wasn't malevolent. It didn't try to hurt me or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was demonic, and this one really wanted us dead. I can only say that my mother and I both developed a tremendous amount of depression.
Sure.
My dog could not bear to be in that house. I mean, we had to put him to sleep because he had so many splinters and nails in his intestinal tract,
Oh God.
trying to eat his way out of the apartment.
Oh wow.
And, and this woman that lived upstairs from us, she was, I guess, killed. I don't know. I mean, the police were there and everything. So I can safely say that I've lived in an apartment that had a ghost in it, which I don't think was particularly malevolent. And when I was younger, I lived in an apartment that, definitely had, I would say, a demonic presence in it. The person that lived in that apartment before us, it was a older couple who had a grown son that lived with them. He was about 25 or 30. He was still living with them.
Mm-hmm.
And he wound up moving out of the apartment, and he went downstairs and put a sleeping bag behind the furnace, and he would sleep down there, and he didn't want to talk to anybody. It was a very strange thing. I remember my mother telling me that. She's like, "Oh, he's crazy.
Yeah.
He sleeps downstairs by the furnace." And I'm a firm believer that I think that house had a demonic presence in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of saw it, before we moved there, in that dream when I was walking with my mother down the street, and it was very strange because I did not know where we were moving, and yet when I saw the apartment the day that we moved in, it was the same apartment that I had dreamed about. That my mother said, "Oh, a demon lives there."
Right.
If the house looks like it has a face on it, that means there's a demon in it. And I mean, my dog, like I said, we had to put him to sleep because he had so many splinters and things in his stomach and stuff. He could not bear to be in that house alone, and that was just not like him. He was the best dog in the world. He was always friendly with us. I mean, when we would come home,
Right.
he'd be wagging his tail, but he'd be sitting there wagging his tail with blood down his chest and splinters and nails in his mouth. And we would have to take care of him. So it was a very strange thing.
Yeah.
But these are the sort of stories that I have personally that I say to myself, yeah, I know there's definitely something more than just the average world that we see around us. And some of it is good, and some of it is definitely evil. I'm not somebody, a lot of people say, oh, there's no devil, there's no, I don't believe that.
Sure.
I believe in God, and I believe that there are dark forces that are around us, and we, the best thing to do is to sort of pray to protect ourselves. So I think it's, I would never be somebody who would ever dismiss anybody who said that they had an experience with, dark spirits, because I've had it myself. And so, yeah, I mean, I just thought I would share those two stories. I thought they were interesting, and those are my experiences. I mean, yeah, maybe they're real, maybe they're not. I don't know, but I can certainly say I'm 50 years old now, and I look back on it, and I to this day I still feel it really did happen.
Oh, sure.
I don't look back on it and say, oh, I don't know, maybe it was something else.
Yeah,
To me, it was very real. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to share those stories.
Wow, I'm so thrilled you did because those are incredibly poignant, and it's such an interesting comparison between the two. They're two very very different kinds of experiences, but both spiritually related.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could definitely feel the difference. Like I said, with that ghost that I had in the apartment more recently,
Hmm.
I never once felt endangered. I never felt scared.
Hmm.
Never, you know.
Right.
But with the other one, it had you you knew that all it wanted was for you to be dead.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I can't explain it any other way.
Yeah. They. I don't.
And
It makes you wonder what the hell they are because whether they are indeed like the fallen angels as the legends say or what they are. But the one thing is consistent is that they are focused on the undoing of anything around them. I mean, they are just single mindedly focused on burning everything around them. It's like such a strange thing, but absolutely terrifying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And when we moved out of that apartment, things got better immediately.
Oh,
My
good.
dad was out of the picture, but also, my mom and I, we were able to move forward, and everything became back to normal.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, this may sound a little crazy of me. I don't live in that town anymore, but I live, not too far away.
Hmm.
And once in a while, I go back to my hometown to visit some friends who still live there. And sometimes I drive down the street where that house is. And I can tell you, since 1984, when we moved in 1983. We were only there for about maybe 9 or 10 months.
Hmm.
We left immediately because we knew that the place was sour. It was bad.
Yeah.
Um, Even now, as a 50-year-old man, if I drive down the street where that house is, I will not look at it. I
Oh,
will not. I'm afraid that something will attach itself to me.
that
And
is.
I drive down that street and I say a prayer and I look straight ahead and I will not look at that house ever.
Uh,
It's at 50 years old, I mean 35, almost 40 years later, I won't. I won't. My other apartment, I still drive by there once in a while.
sure.
It's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever if there's somebody there. But that first one was demonic,
Yeah.
certainly, and I think it was a connection to my aunt. My aunt, who got us that apartment. I guess this is a very short, extra little bit of a story, but she was very much involved with the occult. We didn't find out about that until much later.
Mm.
Um, she sent There were some things that she sent to us. It was a very strange situation, and she passed away on Halloween of
Ooh.
2018,
Oh.
which to me seems very very suspect.
Mm.
She did pass away on October 31st of 2018. It seems to me very fitting because I think she was involved in some very, very, very dark things. And she's the one that found us that apartment.
Oof.
And my mother always said that. She goes, "Oh, your aunt, you know, she's the one who got us an apartment. No wonder. I'm not surprised. What she's involved with." And
Oh.
so, yeah, those are my strange stories.
Well, just
But if somebody finds them interesting, I'm happy. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely true. They definitely happened. I'm not exaggerating anything. And I'm very religious now. I'm Orthodox, Russian Orthodox Christian, because um, I know that there's a dark side.
yeah.
And I want to stick with the light. So, I just thought I would share those things with you.
Well, thank you so much for doing it, and we're absolutely honored that you chose to. I know I found them absolutely amazing. Of course, they're cautionary tales, I guess, at the very least, but they are also. I mean, it's just I always find the paranormal so interesting because Again, it demonstrates some kind of phenomena that's of our reality that we just don't understand. But I think there's a purpose to it. I think there's a higher purpose to these paranormal things, and maybe it'll make us search and journey and ask the questions that'll help us understand all of this better. So no, I really really appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, and thank you for what you do. I really love your show. I tune in. You're usually on. I'm not awake usually for the live show, but when you guys have something during the week, you guys are with me on my morning commute to work. So I appreciate that, and I'm happy that I had a chance to participate with you. So thank you.
Oh, and it's a pleasure meeting you as well. Thank you so much for all your support, and thanks again for calling in.
All right. Take care.
Okay, good night.
Bye bye.
Wow.
That was pretty powerful, huh, Don?
Yeah, that was crazy, and when Chris was talking about the thump drag in his apartment, I was thinking of like a Jacob Marley kind of thing, a spirit that's got a bum leg and he's
Yeah.
thumping one leg and dragging the other behind,
Right.
and that's what I thought of, but that's crazy. And his mother, was it his mother that said that if you see a face on a house, it's demonic?
Yeah, in the dream that was yeah. Well, I think that was
Wow.
part of the dream too. I may be mistaken about that, but still, yeah. I don't know what I guess I should have asked Chris when I had him on the horn, but I didn't know if that meant like those houses you see that have the two windows on top and they have like a big bay window in the bottom and it looks like two eyes and a mouth, that kind of thing. Is that what a face on a house means, or is he like psychically seeing a face impressed on the house? I guess I wasn't as clear on that, but now that you mention it's like, oh, I should have asked him.
I think that in a dream, I would think that he's seen the face on the house or the
Yes.
house having a face. So
Right.
I think that'd be, yeah.
But
But that's
what
just,
a premonition though too.
yeah.
I mean, to have that foreshadowing of the events, it's like it just makes you think this is all a play. We're just playing the parts, and
Right.
that's the foreshadowing of the narrator. And then they came by this house. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
how you doing, Don?
Doing good.
Good.
Doing good.
Did
God,
you?
we're almost to our next break, aren't we?
I know it's just flying by as usual. I really wish the stream hadn't broke on YouTube, but I really am sorry, guys. I don't know what the hell happened, but again, it didn't show broken on my end. And Don is nowhere near the studio. He's in his own studio and doesn't have no access to the controls, unless
I
there's
have no control.
there might be some rogue beard hairs crawling through my boards or something. I'm not sure.
I think so.
But anyway, how tall was your berm, by the way, today?
My berm was at least 2 feet.
Oh wow, and that's a
And you know how wide the entrance is? It's like 20 feet wide.
yeah.
And then when the plow goes by, it throws it 10 feet into that. So it was 2.5 feet, 10 feet wide, 20 feet long.
Of hard
It was
pack.
long. It was a while.
And it's all
Yeah.
hard pack because it's all plowed. Oh man,
Yeah.
I feel for you. I was thinking about you, but I was glad I got a small sidewalk rather than the hell you're dealing with. But
Yeah, I doubt.
that's paying the rent right there, brother. That's paying the rent.
That's right.
Did you?
I have to give things to live in the place I do.
Yeah.
And if I have to give some time to get out to work, well, you know what? I give up some time.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did you catch a little bit of that story that I was reading on the front end before you called in?
I did. And it sounded reminiscent of Black Eyed Children, except this one there's no animation when he was talking, only his mouth moved, no eye movement, no
Yeah.
body movement. Is that right?
Yep. Until he was flying away in his truck, looked back, and it had only turned his head to look at him. But it was white eyes, though. It's the whole white eye instead.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, me either. I was kind of stunned. And there's still a little more of that article that we'll get into on the other side of the hour break. But yeah, really creepy stuff. Very wild. Chris is still on the horn here. I wonder if
Is he?
He might be just listening. No, he just hung up. Darn it. I was gonna pop in and ask him, hey, what, I didn't look at the call board, but he was holding on hold there again, and I was like, oh, I should ask him. And then as soon as I was reaching for the unmute, then he hung up. So I guess we'll have to find out another time. Yeah, very, very strange. Very strange.
Yeah,
But
crazy.
we are at about 2 minutes from break, Don.
Wow.
How's that for moving along?
It's moving along crazy. Yep. Yep.
How many who's in the YouTube chat?
Oh yeah, YouTube chat. Let me pull that up here real quick. We've got Aussie Tiger, Bell Prepper, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Bob in Germany. How you doing, Bob? Haven't seen you in a few weeks. Nice to have you back. We got Bomber up in Canada, and of course Miss Southern California Cha Cha. We got Tony with Crow Creek Cryptids. D's here, Deb's here. Hi, D and Deb. Dub 45, Elaine. I am Pam. Isaac's here. Of course, MCAT, Many Musings. Hi, Many Musings. Haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, nice.
There's Marina, and Mog is here. Nellie's here. None of your beeswax. Mr. Peter Turk is in the house. And Ramon, yeah, you can call in, but we're getting ready to go to our next break. We've got Sam Squatch Riviera, so much Jake with the BLB boys, Violator, Pharmacy Seed Network, Ken Rotman, and Mr. Bigfoot Radio, Duke, of course. So that's what I see. Oh, Amber R just popped in. Hi, Amber.
Very nice. We got a few over in TFR. There's Jen for Peace, V-Lash, the Wookiees over there, Bam's over there, Ruthie C is over there. Great to see all you guys. Paisley's over there, and then Happy Civilian. So we got a few in the house. So it's
I missed Nessie Monster. Sorry, Nessie.
Ooh, that'll cost you. That'll cost you, Mr. Longbeard. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our hour break. God willing, we'll stay connected. We don't want to have every break lead to a new stream, but crossing my fingers here. If it does freeze, then I'll be relaunching again. So we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go away.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling just another fucking mask. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
And years and years and years. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Paranormal Portal. I am Brent Thomas, and I am joined by Don Longbeard. You know what's nice, Don?
What's that?
I don't have to unmute you anymore.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The remote beard is, we're bringing this to you live with Beard Vision. So
That's true.
We got that going for us.
I've been muting myself. So,
Well,
in the spirit of Brent,
self-discipline, is it? Ooh, I'm just a jerk. Hold on. I had that coming. We actually have another phone call, so you feel ready, Don?
Yeah, let's do another phone call. I wonder if it's Ramon.
I don't know. It's depending on where he lives. But let's see who's calling. Area code 845. You're on the air.
No, not Ramon. It's Carlton from the Pharmacy Seas Network. What's going on,
Carlton.
guys?
It was close. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if you guys are similar at all, but you're from the chat, so that kind of counts. How you doing, brother?
It's all good. I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. What's going on in your world tonight?
Oh, not too much. We got some nice warm weather here. And,
yeah, we keep hearing about that.
62 degrees here in New York in January.
Right. That is phenomenal, and I'm happy for you. However, I'm sure you must be expecting a bunch of snow too then, right?
I think we are. I'm afraid to look.
Well, just you got to get kind of zen about it and just be in the moment. Enjoy the moment while it lasts, whatever it means.
Yeah, that's true. You kind of got to just, you got to take it as it comes. Take each day at a time, one at a time, right?
That's what I've heard. So what's going on tonight, brother? What do you want to talk to us about?
Well, I see I can't remember the handle exactly. It's Beeswax. Mind Your Own Beeswax, I think, is his handle in the chat. Was asking questions about, I guess, his son has been banging on his walls and setting off inside fireworks.
Oh, God.
Well, that made me think about my brother. So I thought I would just share a short story about my brother.
Okay.
So my brother passed away in 1999 in a car accident, very sudden. And
sorry.
it was, well, just needless to say, quite a traumatic event for me in my life. But I got a call from his friend a couple days later telling me he wanted to meet with me and talk to me. So I drove down to talk to him and, see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And he related a story to me about my brother coming in the night at like 3 or 4 in the morning and yelling his name from the backyard and waking him up. And I guess he like had some short conversation with him. I don't remember the details. This is quite some time ago now.
Oh my
God. I just thought it was an interesting thing to relate. And I've heard, all sorts of stuff. And obviously I'm no expert on this, but I've heard that sometimes, people who are angry or they died suddenly or under trauma sometimes have a hard time moving on to the next phase of whatever our consciousness is after we leave our chemical body, so to speak.
Right.
So I just thought I would throw that story down quick, and hopefully that'll give him some insight. I don't know. It's a thought.
Oh, okay, so this other person has the fireworks thing is a brother that has passed on. He believes is lighting him off.
I believe he said it was his son, but
son.
he said in the chat that he's had banging on the walls and indoor fireworks and all sorts of interesting phenomena. And he was saying that his son died in Chicago and he's actually in Arizona, I think he said. So, and I was saying I think it seems like once we pass on, the location, that time-space component seems to be removed somehow.
Yeah, it's all about the energy of he wanted to be home with his mom and dad, or that's at least a warm place for him. Then it wouldn't surprise me that he would transcend that space and end up near them. Yeah, I think you're right. I think time-space is kind of it's something we deal with in the physical realm, but not something they have to wrestle with in the spiritual.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. And I just want to throw down a pointer for you guys, since we're always all talking about some really interesting stuff on your live streams here. I came across a channel, a guy named Aaron Abke, Abke, and he has a playlist on the law of one, and he talks about different densities of consciousness and how that affects things. I can't verify it, but I thought it was a really interesting take on it, and it kind of resonated with me. So I thought I would just share that with you guys and the rest of our crew here.
Yeah, fantastic. That sounds wonderful. I'd like to check it out. Hopefully I'll be able to remember that, but if I don't, I know how to get in hold of you. Hey, pharmacy.
For sure, and I'll throw it in the chat if you want.
Yeah, by all means, please do, because I'm always interested in other people's takes on things, and I don't think any one of us has all the answers, but I'm always looking for the answers. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out too. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome, and I completely agree. And I'll let you guys get on with the show. Thanks for taking my call, and thanks for running the show. You guys are building a great community.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate you calling in. Thanks a bunch.
All right, you too. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. Here we go.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. That's pretty intense. I think the brother experience is very profound. You got to wonder. I suppose a car accident is certainly a very sudden, unexpected way to go, and I suppose you feel like you've got a lot left to do, and if ever there's an experience where you feel like it's not the way it's supposed to be, that would definitely be one of them. Those are hard to reconcile, But I sure hope everybody that's stuck like that finds the light. I mean, that's just a heartbreaker. We certainly don't want to think of the people we love being in a stuck place and not able to, move to that, that promise, that world where it all makes sense, so much more so than this world. But yeah, that's really tough. I'm sorry to hear that. It's tough, man.
You know, we've talked about something like this before. Well, we've talked a lot about something like this before. Spirits not being able to move on. You know, is it because they don't realize that they've passed from this energy to the next? Or is it because they want to stick around? Or is it because there's something they're supposed to do? So they're kind of in limbo until that gets figured out.
Mhm.
Is there an unresolved issue with the? We've talked about parents mourning the child that passes on, and kind of hypothesized that maybe it's the parents' grief and that's kind of holding the essence here,
Mhm.
you know, or something like that. So there's lots of different wow
Yeah.
stuff in here. Hey, Wes just showed up.
Mr. Germer, how you doing, brother? Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. That's nice to see you. I thought maybe you forgot what our channel name was. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Did he forget about
It's
us?
the Paranormal Portal.
I wonder what they talk about.
Yeah, it's all this paranormal stuff, huh? Yeah, so very cool. Let's since we got a moment here. Now Ramon's calling in. Let's get to Ramon.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Ramon.
Yo.
Yo, what's going on?
What's up with you guys? How are you guys doing?
I think we're doing good. How's things going for you today?
Very good. How you doing, Don? You weren't there yesterday.
Yeah, I'm never on Fridays.
Sorry.
I hit the clock, that kind of thing.
He said he's never on Fridays, but what else did you say, Don?
I got to hit that clock. I got to grind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But what's on your mind tonight, brother?
Probably like the same kind of stuff I used to talk to you guys about, which is, I mean, what is really going on? That's the question, right?
Sure. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Sure. Okay, I'll tell you what I think is going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically I think if you think about the edge of the universe, and then you think about space, and you think about time, I honestly think that we're almost living in a quote-unquote matrix.
Okay.
And it's not like the matrix of the movie. I think it's a matrix of things that we can't explain. So basically, the hardest question you ever have to ask is how.
Mm-hmm.
How is it possible? You know. So if there's an edge of the universe, that means there's nothingness beyond the universe, right? Or if you're a flat earther, that means that there's, I guess, you know, nothingness right at the edge of the dome or the firmament.
Oh, sure.
So either way, right? So either way, you're questioning how are we materialized? And then I think the other thing to contemplate is this whole, you know, split reality thing that goes on. Like, I had a few cats, unfortunately, that died recently. Are they still alive in a different universe?
Sure.
Does anyone ever die, or do we just reincarnate?
Yeah.
And then the other question, is there an end? Right? And then the other question, which is probably hardest for people to contemplate, is there a beginning?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I think...
Right, so... Go ahead.
I think that, you know, it's... I don't know that it matters so much what somebody defines it as, whether it's a matrix or whether it's some kind of esoteric play, or if it's a script, or or whatever. I think it's all semantics, really, because I think that the bottom line is it seems like we're all here to become something more than we were when we came in. You know, I mean, like we seem to be supposed to learn and grow and develop and hopefully become better, loving, kinder, people.
Right.
I think that's the end game, but I don't think there's an end to the universe because I mean we can observe many universes. There's thousands of them out there that are observable. So I don't know that there's an end to anything, but it's like the macrocosm microcosm paradox. It's like, does the macrocosm eventually become the microcosm, and vice versa? Does the microcosm become the macrocosm? So like when you look out at the macrocosm, you see these suns and planets and stuff, which seems to simulate or mimic an atomic structure in a lot of ways. There's a lot of symmetry and comparisons to that, and so is it like this weird loop of reality in a manner of speaking. Like when you look at the macrocosm, it looks like the microcosm. When you look at the microcosm, it looks like a macrocosm. When you look at the map of all of the theorized and observable universes in space around us, it ends up looking like the neurons that fire in our brains. I mean, they've seen all these correlations.
Right, yeah.
I find that incredibly interesting. And so I don't know if it matters how we identify the reality, but I think it definitely matters that we act responsibly and we act in a altruistic way, or at least in a as good as we can be during this experience. Because do we come back? I kind of believe we do, but it's up to each person to define what that means. But most certainly, I believe that there, that your cats are still alive, because energy can't be created or destroyed. It changes forms. I mean, it's fundamental physics. So we know that the body energy can be broken down into things that biodegradable. We're biodegradable, but not our consciousness, not our energetic self. That there's no accounting what happens to that. So
have you ever seen that movie with Jim Carrey called God? What was it called? It was a movie that I can't remember what it was called, but
The Truman Show.
There's a no, not the Truman Show. It's about these people who go in to erase bad memories.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I've seen it.
Mm.
Yeah, check it out. It's I think it's Jim. I'm pretty sure it's Jim Carrey.
Okay.
And it's very cool. It's very cool because it makes you think about stuff like Satan. Like, why is Satan so upset? Because he can't forget.
Mm.
And why can we, that's the thing, why can we become so upset? Because we cannot forget the things that have hurt us.
Okay.
And, Sunshine of a Spotless Mind.
Okay.
Maybe that wasn't Jim Carrey, but that's the movie.
Yeah, I've certainly never seen it.
And so, and then it's the cool thing about that is he's so liberated after he forgets the bad things that have happened to him. Just like when or if you reincarnate and you're just wiped clean and you're fresh and you're not upset about anything, you're not hurt by anything, you're fresh and you're appreciative, like you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Yeah,
So anyway,
very interesting, though. I mean, those are definitely the questions of the ages.
I'll tell you one thing, guys. I honestly think that no matter what's going on, you're right. It doesn't matter. It does, because it's in our nature. We want to know. Sure. But at the same time, that's what I used to say. It doesn't matter. I'm just grateful for being here.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's in our nature to find out. But I'll tell you one thing that I realized a long time ago is that the only thing that can create more, whether you're talking about birth, whether you're talking about non-birth, when you're talking about cats, whatever, who have been born, or maybe you're thinking about what if they weren't born. The biggest thing that will always move us as a whole is growth. And the only way to grow is to be good.
Yeah,
And Satan and stuff like that they don't want us to grow. They want us to die. And the only thing that they can do is stagnate us. That's what I realized a long time ago. Is there's no way of stopping the growth. And yeah, that was my conclusion.
no, I think
a while ago.
I think you. Unfortunately, looking at some of the political sphere, it seems somebody's managed to put the brakes on some growth there. But other than that, I think people are coming to their own conclusions, their own reality, and I think right now this time seems to be about shattering the illusion, so to speak. It's like we're not fitting.
Right, yeah,
We're not fitting into
that's what
those.
2012 was about.
The what?
2012 wasn't about the end of the world.
Sure.
It was about an awakening. When you look it up, the apocalypse doesn't mean the end of the world, right? It means an awakening.
Sure. I can subscribe to that. I think that's probably true. But
Yeah.
I just think people are no longer sitting, and being placated like they once were. Like we just can't. So we've grown beyond that, and hopefully we'll just move beyond a lot of this crap and start sorting it out. But big questions. I don't know if anybody has the answers, but we all got our opinions.
Right, yeah. Well, the answer is just to be good and to keep searching. That's the answer, basically, in my opinion.
Sure, that's good advice. That's awesome, brother. It's good to hear from you again. It's been nice hearing you from really the last couple nights.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. I'll let you get to your next caller.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, that was Ramon. All right. Words to think about, Don.
While he was talking, I was thinking, he was talking about, what happens with our energy after we leave our bodies. And it brought to mind, I don't know why, but we talk about stone tape theory and how, the earth can record those kind of memories or those actions that keep getting played back and back and back again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, what if we are just a stone tape playing for Mother Earth, and that we've already lived and passed on, and that we're just memories of ourselves or ghosts of ourselves? I don't know. Thoughts?
That gets kind of deep, I mean, it's are we just are we just a dream in the mind of a god? I don't know. Maybe we're just I've heard it postulated that life is, and I don't mean to get all religious, so ladies and gentlemen, believe what you want to believe, but this is just something I've heard. It's this, that life is God realizing or recognizing God's self. And maybe that's what it's all about is, I do think that, there is a quote unquote, for lack of a better term, a divine. I do believe there is. And I think that we are swimming in the mind of God, that, for whatever that means. But to me, what it means is that, we're always connected. We're always a part of the whole. And I think that that's comforting to me. Now, it might just be wishful thinking, but it's, I sleep okay at night, so I'll take it. But
yeah, it's just thoughts, it's, where does the energy go? Well, what if the energy doesn't go anywhere and we just recreate ourselves from this dream of Mother Earth or whatever, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Life is just an expression of life. We are expressions of life, Don. And what fine expressions we are. That's all I'm going to say. I don't even know what the hell that means for sure, but that's what you get on the portal, ladies and gentlemen. You get all the philosophy you can afford. And so far it's free. So all kinds of it, as it were. But no, I think those kind of discussions are fun to have because it's it's not the kind of thinking you do on a daily basis normally. I mean, normally we're just, oh God, I got to take care of this. I got to get to the store and stuff. But then you start thinking existentially and, on that big grand scale of things. And it kind of keeps things in perspective in a manner of speaking. It's like, yeah, I don't care if my car isn't running just right now. There's, there's other things to worry about, other things to focus on, and it's okay. And the world's not going to end because I didn't get my sidewalk shoveled, things like that. So,
Hey, Wes said you will be food in your next life. He says, "Thank you for your sacrifice."
I'll throw myself on the altar of the old gods. No. Maybe. I'll be food for something, I'm sure. At least parts of me will. But that's the way we roll here. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just about a minute away from the next break. And the last break, as it were, of the night. We've cooked right through this episode. I'm having a good time. How you doing, Don?
Doing good.
And maybe I'll get back to that article.
Cool.
We got an article that's underway. I started it at the beginning of the show when we were waiting for Don to connect. And it's white-eyed kids, ladies and gentlemen. If you missed the first part, it's having to do with white-eyed kids, and I think it's really creepy, as if black-eyed kids weren't enough. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there are these even rarer reports of white-eyed kids. And by white-eyed, they mean that the eyes are just all white. It's like, those old, roll your eyes way back in your head and everybody knew someone that could do it just about all the way. That's like what a white-eyed kid is, but all the time, apparently. Very pale. Color, complexion to the skin, and they seem to behave the same way, though, from that account that I was reading. So very interesting, but we'll get into that on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, the last break is just about to begin, so don't go away. In a couple minutes, Don and I will return, and you're not done with us yet, so we'll be right back. There's the empty chair, ladies and gentlemen. I showed you the empty chair. However, the beard is joining us now from the remote Paranormal Portal studio. Welcome back, everybody. And how's the connection going for you, Don? Good?
It's actually mine's blinking in and out. I get a beep boop from Skype every now and then, but it's not been too bad. But who's that crazy looking guy over there in my area? It looks like a skeleton.
Well, I had to bring in some new talent because he's just about as much company as you are. No, I'm just kidding.
I got a good name for him. His name is Wes.
Germer.
Germer.
That there's little Wes. He's hanging out behind us. We should get him a Sasquatch Chronicles shirt. Call him Lil Wes.
Oh man,
That'd be
you're
cute.
horrible, but that was good.
That would be good. Can we get those like smaller sizes of the portal shirts?
You mean Mini Wes?
Yeah. Lil Wes. We'll call it Lil Wes.
Lil Wes.
Yeah, Lil Wes. Yeah.
He's got a rapid name.
We can get him some bling on or something too. Yeah, we can sport him out real good. But yeah, that's how we roll here on the portal, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just watching the chat now because it's coming. It's coming.
Well, he deserved it for the whole, thank you for your sacrifice. Thanks. Oh, $9,999 for the oh no, he was talking about the Kirby vacuum again.
Yeah, there it is. No, that's Sam Squanch. Okay, I'll just keep watching. Yeah, he was on the show. Wes and I did a podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and you can find it's called I think I called The Chronicles of Sasquatch is the episode name that Wes came on and did a podcast with me. It was a good time. We had a great discussion and some in-depth look at the behavior of the Sasquatch. So we had a good time. But yeah, we I guess we gotta get Wes on the live show too. That'd be fun.
He's welcome to call in at any time.
Well, no, he does, but it'd be fun to just have a 2-hour shot with he and Mr. Merkel. I've talked about it before, and they both agreed that they could come on, but then the holidays happened, and everybody was in their own deal. But yeah, I think that'd be cool. So anyway, I was reading this article, ladies and gentlemen. If you came in late, you probably don't know this, but I was reading an article about where the hell is it? I was reading an article.
Cabathon.
Yeah, you know how I roll. Okay, so where we left this story is the guy was in a gas station or convenience store. He's sitting there in his truck, and there's a little kid tapping on the window saying he needs he's lost and needs help. And the guy's like, no, I'm not. Yeah, he's feeling really uncomfortable, and he found himself reaching for his window to roll it down, and then he was like, no, he felt really bad and not comfortable. Same kind of thing that usually overtakes people dealing with the black-eyed kids. And then he just, reached up and made sure his keys were in his ignition. And then the demeanor of this little guy changed. And he said suddenly he looked at it. He looked up, and it had white eyes. No pupil, iris, anything. Just a white pallor on its entire eyeball. And it just stood there as he sped off. But he said it was really creepy. It said so he got home, and here's where we're going to pick it up. He says he claims that he sat there shaking in his truck for a full 20 minutes, wondering if that creepy kid had followed him and was perhaps milling about in the shadows, when he finally worked up the courage to get out and stumble into his house, where he locked all the doors and patrolled the residence with a handgun. When the brother and girlfriend came home, and when he told them what had happened, but they didn't really take it seriously, but nevertheless, it was upsetting enough that he skipped work the following day. And he says that he was plagued by a sense that he was being constantly watched. Now, I should mention that it apparently took him 2 hours to get home, and it should have been like just a few minute drive. So he lost time on the way home there as well. So He said he's feeling constantly watched. The following day, he finally got back to his job as IT personnel at a hospital, still wary and stashing his gun in his glove compartment just in case. And the story would take a rather strange turn as he was getting his truck from the parking garage to head home. He says, then I saw the handprints. 2 damn kid-sized handprints on the driver's side door and 2 on the windshield. Greasy, nasty, horrible handprints. I looked around my truck, down the parking aisle, nothing. So I unlocked the truck, stepped in, closed and locked the door behind me, and then pulled the pistol out of the glove box. I started to put the key in the ignition, but I didn't feel quite right about that. And I wondered, that little, he's using the F word here, but that little dude was all over my truck. What if he did something to it? So I got back out, holstered the Glock. I'd worn the holster, but I can't bring the pistol into the hospital, and popped the hood. And I'm not much of a mechanic, so I didn't exactly know what to look for. I guess I wanted to make sure that everything looked normal. Reasonably satisfied, not that I'd really recognize sabotage at a glance anyway, I got back in the truck and locked the door as it was closing. I turned the ignition and no problems there, and once I put it in gear, I drove slowly and brake checked just to make sure the brake line wasn't screwed up. I got home just fine though. The house was empty as usual. As soon as the rain let up, I took my camera outside hoping to take a photo of the handprints, but they'd washed off, of course. I'm getting sick of all this. And he insists that the only entrances to the parking garage were guarded and that the handprints had not been there when he had arrived. Vehicles seem to be popular targets for these creatures. And another very similar report along these lines come from a Reddit user who says he had his brush with the bizarre while at a 24-hour shopping center car park waiting for a friend at around 10 p.m. And he claims that as he sat there, he lost in his thoughts, a young kid suddenly popped up out of nowhere to tap on his window and ask for a ride. The witness asked him where his parents were, but the boy merely repeated that he was lost and needed a ride home. Things only get more harrowing from there, as the witness says. This was definitely weird. I looked at him again, and then I did a double take. Holy crap, his eyes were white. Not just white around the edges, but unending white throughout the entire eye. No iris, no pupil, just a solid wall of light. I really don't know why, but I felt myself smiling slightly as I gazed at him. Then my thoughts began to collect again, and I must have been about 3 seconds. Sorry, no kid, I have to go. I immediately regretted replying. But you have to take me, the kid replied. And I don't know how, but I could feel his voice more than hear it. His words began echoing in my mind longer than it should have. No kid, I have to go. I started panicking. The kid replied again, this time with something indescribable behind his voice. I'm lost and I just want to go home. I don't know how, but at this point it was as if someone had put the kid's voice on a loudspeaker as he spoke. I felt as though a booming was resonating from within the kid. The force of the kid's voice was so strong. I felt strongly sympathetic for the kid, almost like I was being forced by him. Anyway, with the last ounce of control that I had left, I turned the car on, slammed on the accelerator, and the kid immediately shouted, "No, take me with you." At this point, it was though the kid's voice was a machine gun firing into me. I immediately sped to the nearest exit in a dreamlike state and drove into the night. My friend at this point could find his own way back to the house, which he did later. While driving and exiting from the car park, I could still feel his voice within me resonating at an amplified volume. The force of his voice, it was as if it had been picked up and violently shaken by the kid whose voice was so clear, and my consciousness was analyzing every nuance and inflection of what he had said like I was being forced to. There was so much force behind it. An incredibly eerie similarity to the previous report, the witness says that when he got back to his apartment, an ominous thunderstorm started up and he would notice an anomalous handprint on his car. He explains, "There was a tremendous thunderstorm and I noticed flashes, although I didn't see it, of lightning. And when I was at my apartment building, I live in a complex, and I opened a huge metal door to get in, and it was soaking wet, and there was a handprint on it. I only noticed when I looked down to pull on the handle at about the same height of a small child would place their hands. The handprint was white, and although the whole door was dripping with water, the handprint seemed to be made of recently dried paint. I touched it, looked up, and felt it in my hand just to make sure it was paint. It was. I looked down again. The handprint, within the 2-second span of me sampling it and looking up, had gone from white to clear. From the rain dripping on the door, I touched it again and felt it, and it was paint, but now completely soaked with the water and far more fluid than it was before, indicating it was being soaked. I looked down again, and it had completely vanished, and I put my hand on where the paint had been, but it was nothing but a metal door behind it. For some reason, I looked behind me, of course, there was no one there, and I went inside and made my way up to my apartment and had an early night. I've not encountered any white-eyed kids since, or any being of supernatural type for that matter. That's horrible. These wild encounters are remarkably similar and seem to also share a lot in common with the typical black-eyed kid encounters, such as the child approaching a lone witness in a secluded place, such as a rural house or car at night, as well as the pleading to be let in or for the witness to help them. For some reason, these entities seem to be unable to enter a home or vehicle unless they are specifically invited to do so. They will often become increasingly aggressive and malevolent if refused, just as in these accounts. It always seems that they cannot force their way in unless specifically invited. And in most cases, when the menacing children eventually give up and leave, the victim is left exasperated and confused, and with a profound sense that they have just avoided some sort of dire fate. The irrational fear that can come crashing in like a sudden wave in these reports is also a hallmark of black-eyed kids encounters, but there are some differences as well. In this case, there is obviously the color of the eyes, but there is also the unusual mention of lost time in one of the reports, as well as the additional harassment and evidence left behind of the form of handprint after the initial encounters. But really typical of black-eyed kids. Not really typical of black-eyed kids, rather. What to make of it all? When did it even... And did it even really happen at all? Here's another one. Another interesting black-eyed or white-eyed kid report was given to the site Phantoms and Monsters. Okay, that's Lon Strickler, I think is his name, by a witness who says that on this day they had been out with some friends swimming in a lake, jumping off a cliff into the water below, and that for the most of the time they had been alone. However, at one point another group arrived, and along with them a sense that something wasn't quite right. He explains, "A truck arrived with a tall, thin guy, maybe 16, and 2 girls around that same age, and it was when they arrived and started jumping off the cliff too that I became uneasy. I asked my friends if we could start biking home, and they were like, sure. As I got on my bike, I turned back around to take one last look, and the guy was staring at me, but I noticed that he only had white eyes. No color, no pupil, nothing. At the time, I hadn't even heard of white-eyed kids, so I Googled people without pupils, and nothing came up. It was weird, but true." And this is a bit different from the black-eyed kid encounter, in that the black-eyed kids are never seen driving vehicles. Indeed, usually needing to be given a ride, and they also tend to avoid approaching groups of people, preferring solitary prey. In another case from Phantoms and Monsters, we have a report given by K. Mitchell, who had his encounter in 2005 at the Petrified Forest National Park in the state of Arizona. He claims that the road that he was on was bleak and empty, with no other cars around, and at sunset, he pulled his car over to the side of the road to take a rest, have a smoke, and check his maps. He got out of the car, and that was when he saw something pretty odd. Out there in the middle of nowhere, he says, of the terrifying string of events that would happen next. I got out to have a smoke and check the map, and out of nowhere there was a kid who looked maybe 13 in a hoodie and jeans. And she asked if I'd give her a ride, and I couldn't because I was packed to the gills in the middle of moving, so I declined, but offered to let her use my phone so she could call someone. I even offered to wait with her until someone picked her up. She became livid and gave me a grimace, which is when I noticed the eyes, purely white. I opened my trunk and grabbed a sandwich and a bottle of water, set them on the ground, and got back in my car. Within a week, I was in the hospital with a complete renal failure and no idea from the doctors why it even happened, and ended up flatlining twice. I didn't think much about it until I was telling my Nana from Norway about it, and she told me that they're death harbingers. That what's the most unnerving is the fact that I had seen her a few more times afterwards in multiple cities and states. Ooh, that's creepy.
Wow.
So this account is interesting in that it paints the entity as a portent of death or misfortune, perhaps even the cause of it. And indeed, it seems like bad things happen when people let the black-eyed kids get too close or allow them in as well. In a way, many of these accounts seem to point to the white-eyed kids being some version of their more well-known black-eyed brethren. So is there some link between them? What significance do such accounts have? And what do they mean? What connection, if any, do these have to the black-eyed kids? Indeed, what are they, if anything? Are they demons, ghosts, aliens, or just figments of the imagination? Whatever the answer may be, it's an interesting subspecies of phenomena concerning the black-eyed kids, and it is all so surreal and bizarre that it seems we are nowhere near figuring out what this is all about. Yep, I think that's pretty accurate.
Okay. Hey, Brent,
Yeah?
I have to get off because I have to make way for Paisley.
Okay.
So,
All right, brother. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you remoting in to make this all possible.
yeah, unfortunately, I'm sorry I couldn't be there. It would be a lot clearer, a lot better show, I'm sure. But thank you all for letting me remote in. Occasionally it does happen. And Brent, we will talk to you later.
All right, brother. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Okay, guys, and that was the Beard joining us from the remotes out in the woods, the sticks, the outer reaches of civilization, I guess. But the white-eyed kids, now I'd never heard of that before. Tonight, again, I don't know. I don't believe I've ever heard a reference to them before or anything like that. So I found that incredibly interesting, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too, because it's not your normal kind of stuff, huh? Very curious, but we got about 8 minutes left. Nighty-night, Longbeard. Ghost of Chats Past. It's funny. But let's see what else I got for you guys. Because now it's just me. Now it's just me and a microphone, so I could just start singing, I suppose. I'm just joking, by the way. And now the musical musings of Brent Thomas. Right here live on the Paranormal Portal. No, that's not what this show is all about. Let's see. No, there was one other tab. Where's my tabs? I know I've got them. I've got tons of them everywhere, so. Was this it? No. No, that's not it at all. Sorry. I'm a bit unorganized, and unorthodox as well. So, this sounds kind of good. With just a few minutes left, I want to pull up this one and just see. This is apparently Camping Tales of Terror. Now, we're nowhere near the camping season, but I should probably save it for then. But I think it's a lot of fun to talk about these weird creatures that are out there in the woods. I love me some cryptids, and we do a lot of ghosts and stuff, so it's kind of cool to talk about things like the white-eyed kids / black-eyed kids phenomena. Now we'll have to say both of them, as they seem very similar. But let's see what's going on. This one is about the White Mountains creature. KH was camping at a national forest campground in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. One night after his wife and daughter had fallen asleep, he was sitting by the fire when he heard a noise. This was different than the usual bear grunt. It was more like someone sneaking in from the trees. And I immediately grabbed the flashlight, and what I saw haunts me even now. I saw a being in the trees, hunched down. It was naked and looking gray. It had very muscular, but its legs were backward, like a bird's, and then it quickly turned and bounded off down the hill. I couldn't even follow it with my light. We left the next day. Good call. The next year, we went back to the same campground and campsite, and again, I stayed up late, poking the fire and reading, and it was maybe 1 or 2 in the morning when I heard a noise. I shined the light in that direction. The same creature was there. It looked exactly the same as I'd remembered from the previous year. It just sat there, crouched in the small tree line that separates the campsites, and I slowly walked towards it. I tried not to make any threatening moves or gestures, and I got to within 20 feet of it when it just jumped backwards and disappeared. It looked like it might be 5 to 6 feet high if it had stood up. It was definitely gray. It had human features, but more leathery. Its face was very wide. Its eyes were so big, and even though they reflected the light, they still looked black, like two intensely black marbles. Its legs were very muscular, but turned backwards, and I know what I saw. It was very real. So there again, ladies and gentlemen, another cryptid. There's weird beings that are out there that we have no idea what they are. No, I didn't. I did grow a beard. That's nice you noticed. I just had all this beard envy from all you bearded folk, so I just had to join the club. What do you think? There's one difference, though, Wes. I make this look good. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it out there. All right, so the next one is... you crack me up. Phantom campers. Let's say it says Night Raven and a friend Todd were camping at a cabin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and they were waiting for other friends to arrive when they had an unexplained experience. At about 9:30 p.m., it was getting dark, and we were beginning to worry about Randy and Tommy. Only a few moments later, we saw car lights in the front of the cabin. We were in the middle of nowhere, so it had to be them. We heard the car doors open, heard Randy and Tommy as plain as day, and I yelled, "We're on the deck," and the car doors closed. We heard footsteps rounding the corner. At the point that someone would have rounded the corner, it was suddenly silent. I looked at Todd, and he was looking at me. It was quiet. I yelled, "Hey, Randy. Hey, Tommy." We got up and looked around the front, and there was nothing. No car, no people, no sound. 90 minutes later, the phone rang. It was Todd's mother calling to inform us that at 9:30 that evening, a fatal traffic accident involving Randy and Tommy took place 30 miles from the cabin. It's almost as if they just wanted to keep our tradition alive. Oh, wow. That's really bizarre. That is bizarre. Huh. I guess they showed up anyway, ladies and gentlemen. That's too bad. I mean, what a heartbreaker. This one's called Light at the Cabin. It says Northern Michigan is also the location of this strange event. Let me look at the time quick because I got 3 minutes. We should be okay. Oops, I lost it. Nope, I absolutely lost my page now. Awesome. Northern Michigan is the location of this strange event. Our Basil and a friend were at a riverside cabin one night relaxing. And they were about to retire to bed when I just stretched out when a huge crack erupted from the woods. Both of us thought it was a branch or an old tree that had fallen. And after he had turned off the living room light, we noticed that the light coming from the windows was abnormally strong. This sent our nerves to a new high, and the light seemed to pulse several times and got so bright at one point you could have read a book by it. And it couldn't have been a car, as we were almost a mile off the road on a dirt trail. Plus the light came in from all the windows equally. And every so often we would hear a strange humming noise that penetrated the cabin and lasted almost half an hour. We talked about just running out at the car to the car and leaving, but neither one of us wanted to go outside. After the light went out, we sat on the couch, occasionally putting forth theories on what it could have been. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, there was another loud crack. We worried about the light might come back, but nothing further happened. The light in the forest. Lots of lights in the forest. I'm really interested with the whole orbs. I really want to understand more about that because I don't know, are they a spiritual thing? Are they something else? I don't know. They are certainly bizarre, though. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are basically cooking the end of the journey here tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Wes, I got to see what he says. Looking at your beard reminds me of a time I was spotting a guy benching 280. He didn't get up, but I would give it a 9 out of 10 for effort. Well, you got to start somewhere, brother. Don't hate on my manliness. But anyway, guys, that's about it for us. Again, Paisley Wild will be coming up next on TFR iHeart. Tune in and TalkStream Live. As well as after that, if you head over to tfrlive.com/chat, get a username and password, and you can hang out with the Duke during World Bigfoot Radio on TFR Live, which will be coming up right after Paisley. And you can hang out with him and have a chat about the show that he has playing for you. So it's a great opportunity to sit one-on-one with the host and get the background and get the inside scoop. So that's going to about wrap it up for us, though, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this journey. Again, sorry for the disconnect in the first section. I don't know what the hell happened. YouTube dropped my ball. That didn't sound right at all, did it? Oops. But anyway, guys, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Take care, everybody. Good night.